It's Street Fighter Zero 3, otherwise known as Street Fighter Alpha 3 in the West.
Street Fighter Zero 3.
He sounds really excited about that. This is a 1999 release for the Sega Dreamcast, and a fun example of a Japanese release of a game compared to the Western release of a game, with very few changes between the two. I think this has a welcome name change for the Western release because Street Fighter Alpha 3 sounds kind of cool, whereas Street Fighter Zero 3 sounds like you're getting less. 3 times less, in fact, but 0 times 3 is still 0, and 0 isn't very much.
What a terrible fighter!
I previously reviewed Street Fighter Alpha 3, which is an excellent addition to the Street Fighter series and an awesome game on the Dreamcast. And if you watched that review and are watching this one, you notice there's very few differences between the two games. The majority of the spoken dialogue is in English, while some of the text on the screen is in Japanese, and much of it isn't. But unlike some role-playing games where you really want to follow the story and it helps to speak the language, this is Street Fighter, so it doesn't make that much difference. You can probably just assume that you know what they're talking about. For instance, I'll translate what Chun-li just said. "My thighs aren't big, there's just plenty of them to love as they're kicking your ass." I'm playing Street Fighter Zero 3 on my Japanese Sega Dreamcast for this review. Gameplay between this and Street Fighter Alpha 3, the Western release, is identical. And unless you're a serious collector who really wants to obsess over every change and detail in this game, there's not much reason to collect Street Fighter Zero 3 if you've already got Street Fighter Alpha 3. There's some character name differences, like Bison is named Vega for the Japanese version, Balrog is Bison, and Vega is Balrog. And perhaps there's some other changes I haven't picked up on, like music, but for the most part, the gameplay is identical between the two versions. And if you're in it for the gameplay, then there's no reason to have both versions. Ah, you see what he said there? I'm glad they didn't change my name, because Fei Long says it all. And I don't want to go through the hassle of reprinting my business cards. While there's a number of Japanese releases for the Dreamcast that don't have Western versions, Street Fighter Zero 3 is not one of them, because you can find this one. It's just called Street Fighter Alpha 3. It's not even that hard to find. In fact, it's eBayisably, a unique word that can be used as a verb and adjective at the same time. You can find it on eBay, easily and affordably. This is another game that came in a huge box of fighting games from Frank in California, thank you, which gave me additional incentive to pick up a Japanese Dreamcast, which really aren't that expensive, if you find one that's not a special edition and in your country. And while there are other ways to play Japanese games on a North American Dreamcast, for those who collect Dreamcast games, it's fun to have the originals. And there's some awesome Japanese exclusives that you'll be seeing here on Classic Game Room, which can be found eBayisably. So even with a different name and packaging, it's still an excellent game from Capcom in the Street Fighter series, Street Fighter Zero 3. Alpha, Hyper, Turbo, Remix, A-Spec, Prologue, Supercharged, XR, 4TI. Limited Edition, Special Edition, Box, Set, Collector's Edition, with fold-out cover and CD soundtrack, collectible action figures, and a code which can be redeemed online for additional content